And a very good morning to you. You're welcome along this Thursday. It's the Thursday of a massive week in the Six Nations. I can't really remember a time that a fixture as big as this has been as eagerly anticipated. There is bad injury news on the Ireland front coming out of the camp. Not official just yet, but it looks like Tadhg Furlong won't start, and it looks like Ian Henderson won't start as well. So Quinn Roux is in the probable teams that have been outlined by the various rugby journalists who seem to know their stuff when it comes to getting the team a little bit early. On top of that, Manchester United stunk the joint out last night and got away with a 0-0 draw in Seville. We'll talk about that a little bit later on as well. Clinton Morrison is going to join us to help preview the game. Alan Quinlan is going to join us in studio. And as well as all that, we have some more good stuff coming your way, which I'll tell you about in just a while. Niall Kennedy, there it is. The first documentary of the Andy Lee era is here with us on Off the Ball. He's been down speaking with Niall Kennedy, who's got a massive fight coming up this weekend and an amazing backstory as well. So we'll talk about all of that, as well as checking in with Frank Greaney about the latest in Belfast from the courts. Owen, good morning to you.
Good morning, Ger. How are things?
Yeah, pretty good. I mean, not great if you're a Man United fan. Although maybe if you're a Man United fan and you want to see the end of the Jose Mourinho era, you're like, yeah, this is how it happens. Boring 0-0 draws, Pogba not starting and then not really doing anything when he does come on very early on.
Yeah, it was almost like a strange moment when you're watching the game last night and you're like, right, Jose Mourinho has just brought on their best player in his best position. Why the hell didn't this start from the first minute? And then you realise that actually Paul Pogba playing in his best position under Jose Mourinho actually is pretty ineffectual. And it is such a bad, sad even indictment of where Jose Mourinho is at a manager, that this is the sort of stuff we have to put up with last night. There was a time when there was a point in last night's match when I considered turning on the Brit Awards. That's how bad things got. I was like, oh, you know, gouging my eyes out and watching Rag and Bone Man or something like that seems more appealing than actually watching this terrible Manchester United team in action.
I was talking to another Man United fan who was watching Donnacha O'Callaghan on the restaurant. Didn't quite see him the whole way through to see what score he got, but that was up against it as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, like that may even...
You're going to tell me now he got a 4 because you watched it.
I should have. If I'd known the restaurant with Donnacha O'Callaghan was on, then that beats Manchester United 10 times out of 10.
Tommy says he's a Man United fan and he fell asleep, revealing the Man United bias at the kind of marionette behind the show.
Disgusting that somebody would support a team and get involved with sports broadcasting professionally.
Yeah.
It's putrid to watch. I can't think of many worse things that have just been a constant, where it's like you sit down and there is almost this self-hating process about watching Manchester United, where you're like, I know this thing is going to be absolutely awful for the next 90 minutes, but I'm going to sit down here and watch this for the next 90 minutes anyway. Like, is there any other thing in sport where you're like, this kind of...
self-flagellation.
Yeah.
The pain. Just stop watching it. You'll feel much better.
Maybe I should have just watched Shakhtar Donetsk against Roma last night.
Well, that was a decent game.
Or as I say, maybe even the restaurant or the Brits might have provided some sort of better relief.
There was a Harry Kane moment at the Brits, which you've seen.
Yeah, and we would play it if it wasn't like terrible. I've
just got distracted. What is this sport? What is that?
So you're watching. It's cross country,
but it's
something
cross country like
over the ramps. They did it with snowboarding there a couple of days ago. It is incredible.
Did they snowboard down the same track?
Yeah, they do, and there is sometimes collisions mid-air. It's incredible. I'd like to point out as well that like a week ago I came on the show and I was the only person who was like, the Winter Olympics are amazing.
I know.
And suddenly around the office over the last couple of days, you, Adrian Barry, a number of other people have suddenly got into it.
I keep forgetting that it's like, just get into it, pay attention from the start, wipe these 3 weeks from like all social calendars and go, right, this is what you're doing.
Yeah, like
every 4 years, the Winter Olympics is a bit crap, isn't it? Because it wasn't on TV properly when we were kids, so you didn't kind of... Men's ski cross was what it was. It's mental. It's like BMX is in the Olympic Games.
The Winter Olympics is like the first two Godfathers, and Manchester United is like the Godfather 3. That's the difference in standard that we have here.
Oh yeah.
It's like when you're watching that stuff, waking up in the morning, everything feels rosy, and then late at night when you're not so tired, even watching Manchester United just feels terrible.
Yeah.
So it's good to have that sort of relief.
How do the Man United fans feel? They can't be happy with this. I think they signed really badly. I don't think...
Who did they sign that was really bad?
I don't think Lukaku's really that exciting a striker.
Here.
Well, what is he?
Like
what type of...
He's not a really bad signing. Alexis Sanchez, Paul Pogba were great signings.
I don't think... Was Pogba a great signing?
Paul Pogba is a fantastic football player. He is failing. He is tanking so bad.
Was the team around him at Juve not a better team to give somebody the freedom just to be Paul Pogba? Because ultimately, what is Paul Pogba?
Paul Pogba plays on the left in a midfield three. That's what he did at Juventus. That's what he did last night for Manchester United and still failed miserably. And Manchester United don't look any bit better with him in that position, it seems.
If you're Man United, you're on the phone straight away to PSG and going, so listen, you guys, you've got a great team there. Galacticos, I like what you're doing. Your style is amazing. Would you like one more French Galactico? You can have them for a little bit less than we paid.
Yeah, you could do that. I've seen...
Get your money back and move on.
We were speaking about it on the show over the last couple of days about the vision access that Jose Mourinho gave to showing Paul Pogba in action, in training, and that, he's definitely going to start. And it now seems that was a very deliberate technique by Jose Mourinho to show that it's not my problem. Paul Pogba is fit. He's fully fit. It's his problem.
Yeah.
He's the guy that you need to be looking at. And I see he gave the interviewer on BT Sport a hug last night after he asked him about Scott McTominay. Is it Des...
Kelly.
Des Kelly, sorry. He gave him a hug because he asked him about Scott McTominay and stopped asking about Paul Pogba because he got angry with him previous to the game about asking about Pogba. And I see Jonathan Liu in the Telegraph this morning just making, or not in the Telegraph, in the Indo, making the point that maybe Jose Mourinho just really likes Scott McTominay and he deems him to be more effective in his kind of archaic model than Paul Pogba.
Isn't McTominay not a good player?
He's grand, and Liu makes that point as well that he was just present last night. He didn't do anything that was amazing. Even his one shot from 20 yards out or so was quite a tame effort that was almost polite to the opposition keeper. And everything he did was just shuttling opposition players into the correct channels so that other people could take the ball off him, or giving the ball to a player right beside him safely.
A really competent big match Champions League last 16 debut.
Exactly. And
from a homegrown player.
Just ticked a lot of boxes, a lot of very unimportant boxes, and Jose Mourinho seems to like that. And maybe there is that possibility that he just likes him because he's less flashy than Paul Pogba. Let's call a spade here. Maybe Jose Mourinho doesn't like Paul Pogba's individuality.
He shouldn't have signed him then.
There is that.
And
so it's Jose's fault. It's completely Jose's fault.
Well, I don't think he should have signed Matic, and I don't think he should have signed Lukaku. I think there are better players available in those positions around the world.
I'm not so sure about the Lukaku thing. I know I'm probably in the minority there, but I really think that there was a dearth of top-class striker options last year. I think we're using hindsight favourably here to say that Romelu Lukaku is no longer an elite striker. I think there was certainly a facade last year to say that he is one of the best available options.
Maybe he's one of the best available options, but you don't have to play him in every game, and he's playing him in every game.
He started the season brilliantly.
Mix things up. But let's see a front three of Martial, Rashford and Alexis Sanchez. Let's see what happens.
But that was my big problem last night, that Rashford and Martial both started on the bench. If you include Pogba in that trio of players who were on the bench, you've arguably left out three of their best four attackers. Sanchez is probably up there. Lukaku is probably their fifth best attacker at this point. But it's a sad indictment for Jose Mourinho as a manager that United have disimproved as the season has gone on. As I've said, Lukaku started the season well. Pogba started the season well. Henrik Mkhitaryan started the season well.
Well, look, obviously he's gone now. But let's not worry too much. This is just the first leg. Let's not overreact to a 0-0 away draw in a cauldron.
Stuff.
It's not great.
So predictably turgid.
And it's not as if it's the first time that it's happened. I had a few of my mates got in touch yesterday going, what's the story with the sneezing and the snots constantly coming from your nose? I got headbutted at 4 o'clock in the morning on Monday night.
What?
Yeah, I've broken my nose.
Where were you? Was this in Temple Bar?
My 1-year-old, nearly 2-year-old son was awake in the middle of the night, fell asleep, and then launched himself headlong into my... So, I know you can't tell, my nose is a bit swollen. It's not normally as big as this.
You should go get that checked out.
It probably is, but so if you see me, if something's coming, it's I apologise to the viewers, but to the listeners, they don't care. No,
they really don't. They probably hear it as well.
Oh yeah?
Disgustingly. But just one last point on Jose Mourinho. As I said, we have kind of mentioned the kind of self-loathing method of watching Manchester United these days. watching United and voluntarily sitting down at night to watch Manchester United play a full game is almost like sitting down to watch Game of Thrones and being surprised that violence has erupted. It's like, oh my God, there's blood on screen. I can't believe it. I'm in complete shock that this has happened. You kind of get that same feeling when you watch Manchester United, that
Game of Thrones is less predictable, and there is definitely some more good crack being had by some people in it.
Well, yeah, like even those people who suffer grisly deaths in Game of Thrones are probably enjoying themselves a little bit more than Paul Pogba right now.
There is some art involved. Occasionally. There was that entire crappy season which made people think this is rubbish. And anyway, let's move on. Maybe this is just that crappy season in the interregnum, and next season Jose will finally get a squad that he believes is good. I mean, his defence are crap, so maybe he's terrified of leaving them exposed. Like if he had 1/1.5 good centre backs, perhaps life would be better for them. But that's just giving him a little bit too much room.
He was playing down David De Gea as well last night. He was like, they were just statistic saves. They weren't really good saves. Part of me agrees with him. You know, that amazing save that everybody's like, that was the greatest save of all time. It wasn't the greatest save of all time. Give me a break. He put his hand out like this. It was a great reaction. But like, you could pick out 10 better saves than that have occurred this season, and De Gea's probably made half of them.
Okay, so then he's a great goalkeeper, and
he is. He is a great goalkeeper. But that one save isn't as amazing as people think.
We have tickets for Ireland against Wales to give away. It is a pair of tickets for Ireland against Wales to give away this Saturday afternoon. It's all with thanks to Vodafone. All you have to do to enter is to share or retweet the show and comment beneath your score prediction using the hashtag OTBAM. We should tell you that Ian Henderson is out, Tyke Furlong is out, and in all of the team that have been named today, Andrew Porter starts, James Ryan starts, and we also have Chris Farrell starting in the centre. So if you want to win a pair of tickets, courtesy of Vodafone, to enter, just share or retweet this show on whatever platform you're watching it and leave a score prediction beneath using the hashtag OTBAM. So even if you're on YouTube or Facebook, just put the hashtag in and we'll know to enter you in that competition, and we'll give this pair of tickets away a little bit later on. Now, let's bring you through what's happening in the newspapers. Some pretty interesting stuff. It seems as if all the newspapers have the details on the rugby situation. Yeah, they do, but it's Manchester United dominating proceedings in terms of the headlines anyway. Stalemate in Sevilla, De Gea to the rescue as Mourinho's United grind out draw. The Irish Times then, as you mentioned, obviously they've got the Porter and Ryan story. Porter and Ryan set to start with Furlong and Henderson ruled out. Farrell likely to make Six Nations debut with Healy and Stander back in the starting 15. At the front of their sports section though is David De Gea making that wonder save, as some people are calling it. United overrun, but De Gea saves the day to ensure parity. On the back of the Herald, it's Manchester United as well. There's Jose and Paul Pogba. Reds to rely on home rule. On the back of the Irish Daily Star, then they've got that Hendo story as well. Henderson looks set to miss out rather. And you've also got saving the day. Super Spaniard keeps United's dream alive. Sevilla 0, Manchester United 0. They've got that similar picture. Everybody, I think I might be the only person who's not rating this save as highly as some people. Top Gea rather. Surely the save of the season. Top Gea, get it?
Kind of.
Top Gear. So it's like, so you can't read, you're subliterate, and you go, oh, Top Gear, Gea, De Gea, Top De Gea. Oh, I get it now.
Yeah. I think the less we ponder on that, the one thing I'm noticing here is that the use of the word de instead of the has now become the pun of choice when it comes to David De Gea.
In England, and you know, it's something they would have fearlessly and ceaselessly mocked the poor Paddy for over the years. This, that, does, and these. Yeah, so surely the save of the season, that's
as
the way
King David
goes.
Rescues dreary Reds with unreal display. And then finally on the back of the Sun, sick as a pog, Paul axed, then flops. See, it was a mistake. You were on the team sheet, says Jose to Paul Pogba in a direct quote that I suppose they've got lip readers that the Sun seem to employ full time to say Jose actually telling Paul it was all a mistake.
James McLean also coming out fighting on behalf of Martin O'Neill. He was doing a gig yesterday. Furlong set to miss out is the headline on the back of the Times Ireland edition. And then also fears over GAA chiefs' new powers. This is a story from their GAA reporter Paul Keane has been speaking with the Club Players Association, who aren't at the moment getting any traction with their desire for the motion before Congress, where they want everybody who votes at Congress to have their vote recorded. Funnily enough, a bunch of county boards don't think that that's the right thing to do. They want to be able to go and trust their members. It's fine, we can trust our members to do what they're told to do. That's why this is an issue. But there is another motion that apparently would give the Director General sweeping new powers. That's motion 8. We'll get a bit more detail on what exactly the text of motion 8 is for you, but the CPA are very concerned about the fact that that might be something that maybe everybody doesn't fully understand ahead of Congress. The Irish Independent have a full page ad on their back, so Wales know how to stop us better than anyone. This is the bit where we're favourites all week and everybody starts to go, what? We can't be favourites? What? No way. This is like an evens game. But obviously it isn't at the moment. And then there's a bunch of other stories there. McTominay United's anti-Pogba displays all the beguiling anonymity his manager demands. That's that Johnny Liu story, which Owen was talking about. Okay, that's darts. No thanks. British snub Irish national with just 4 entries as Big 2 dominate. This is Mullins and Elliott have 48 of the 97 entered for the Fairyhouse Grand National, and just 4 entries from Britain for that.
It certainly seems strange to me that a sports newspaper would put a game, as you called it, on the back of their newspaper, but sure, each to their own.
A betting newspaper, the Racing Post. And then, yeah, sorry, that's that HRI story that we were talking about a bit yesterday. The Telegraph have the De Gea post-save reaction, and they also, on the back of the Guardian, have the actual save itself that De Gea makes just before half-time. So the special one, De Gea saves United again as they shut out Sevilla. Just one story that I wanted to talk about from the Irish Examiner today. Cloete muscles into Munster affections. This is the opening. It's a brilliant opening from Charlie Mulqueen. Charlie Mulqueen feels exactly how I feel anytime I sit beside Dave McIntyre, particularly when he has only his tight t-shirts on. Sit beside Chris Cloete, says Charlie, when he's wearing a short sleeve shirt, and you cannot help be amazed by the size of his biceps. They are not just big, they are enormous. And boy, when he gets on the rugby pitch, he certainly knows how to use them to the greatest benefit. This is obviously something Chris himself is very proud of. We went and just had a cursory look at his Instagram feed, which I recommend you do at some point today. So this is there. This is, I don't have a date on this one, but wow. Look at those muscles. That is unbelievable. Look at it.
Maybe there's nothing on the bar. That's my question here.
Yeah, you see, you can't actually see what he's lifting there, but I guess the whole point is he doesn't need to. Kind of, does the tan come naturally? This is all part of the same shoot. I wonder, do the rest of the Munster lads, have they all seen this? Like, is that the type of thing that you walk into a dressing room afterwards and they all go, just tell us a little bit about how the shoot came about, Chris?
I say
did you accidentally get oiled up for it?
Yeah, that's just what happens. It's the little kind of leak in the roof, and it's just kind of an opportunity. Take the camera out, there's an oil leak in the roof.
Yeah.
Let me stand under this and
They
shower
also
myself.
seem to make you a bit more tanned than you are. And, you're a bit pale here. There's a line here. It's different here to Super Rugby, but I've enjoyed both ways. Sorry, it's enjoyable both ways. I've really settled. You get told what to do, and you do it at the end of the day. So I'm really enjoying it and trying to adapt every week and trying to get better. The Munster lads have their own strange sense of humour, but yeah, I think I have a strange sense of humour also, so I've fitted in quite well. But the guys have been very good and very friendly, so that strange sense of humour. That was from November 2015, I'm being told by Tommy. There are some other stuff, some other bits and pieces on Chris Cloete's Instagram. This is, that's him. Awesome time in the Karoo, #hunting season. I don't know what he shot there. And then this one here, without hunting, there would be no conservation. Without conservation, there would be no wildlife. I mean, definitely without no conservation, there would be, less wildlife. And conservation is unbelievably important. Not sure that hunting is a form of conservation, really. I mean, I've seen the argument made that you have to cull certain animals from time to time. But, do you have to kill them by hand? Do you have to enjoy the killing of them?
Well, the only reason he's taking a picture beside that dead animal is because he uses his bicep to give it scale. It's just, that's the only reason he does it. But if he wants to see some real conservation, he's a Munster man now, Chris Cloete. Could he please, and this is a plea for me to you, Chris Cloete, could you go to the Killarney National Park and get rid of the rhododendron? They struggle with that every year. It kills wildlife in terms of flora, anyway, not so much fauna every year. If you could go down there, maybe get a flamethrower or something and sort this out. I know you're a man dedicated to conservation. Please help Killarney National Park survive the rhododendron epidemic that often occurs every single year. So that's all I'm saying. You are a Munster man now, and I'm sure you'll do the good thing for your locality.
All right, fuck the rhododendrons is basically Owen's message this morning, and fair play to him. You can get in touch with us here on Twitter @OffTheBall We're also facebook.com/OffTheBall. Or indeed, if you want to get us on YouTube, you can hit the subscribe button there. It's youtube.com/OffTheBall. We're going to get to Alan Quinlan in just a couple of minutes' time, but I think we can go to Belfast now and join Frank Greaney. Yeah, Frank, good morning to you.
Good morning, Ger.
Yeah, now just again, for anybody with sensitive ears in the car or anybody who's of a sensitive disposition, the evidence that we're about to hear Frank talk about from yesterday's court case in Belfast is again very, very graphic. So again, I'll just give you that warning that we'll be doing 2 minutes on this, and if you want to come back for some rugby analysis after that, and then come back. But otherwise, you can stay tuned. And Frank, maybe you might just take us through what happened yesterday, please.
Sure. Well, when we spoke yesterday, we spoke about the evidence of a Dr. Philip Lavery, who examined the complainant when she came into the sexual assault referral clinic where he works on the evening of the alleged rape of June 28th, 2016. And he described that she had bruises on her arm and legs, but he couldn't say, she couldn't recall how she got them, and he couldn't put an age on those bruises. But he said on a closer physical examination, he did note a 1 centimetre tear on the wall of her vagina. Now, the defence called a medical witness yesterday morning and asked about that tear. You know, she didn't examine the complainant herself. This is a woman called Dr. Janet Hall. She's a wealth of experience in forensic medicine, and she has dealt with sexual assault cases for years. But she did view a DVD recording taken by Dr. Lavery of that tear, purporting to show that tear, because she told the court yesterday that when she viewed that recording at the Round Clinic just outside Belfast, she said that she couldn't actually see it. But she did accept then, when she was cross-examined by the prosecuting barrister, that the quality of the recording wasn't very good. Now, she was also questioned by Arthur Harvey, who is the barrister representing Blaine McElroy, one of the 4 accused. He is facing and denies 1 count of exposure. And while she was being questioned by him, she was asked about the general effects that alcohol would have on a person, or the sexual assault cases that she would have dealt with. She was asked her thoughts on that, and she said that in her experience, alcohol would reduce inhibitions, that it can create arousal, and that it can sometimes make people do things or behave in a way that they wouldn't necessarily behave in if they weren't under the influence of alcohol. Now, we heard previously in the trial that the complainant had 1.5 large glasses of wine before she went to Ollie's nightclub in Belfast City, and that while there she had 3 double vodkas and Red Bull. Back at Paddy Jackson's house then, where there was some drinking going on at the party, she said that she didn't have any drink, that she went to the kitchen at one point to get a glass of water, but that she didn't even end up having a glass of water back at the party. So that was the extent of the alcohol that she had. Now, Dr. Hall, again, when she was pushed a little further on the effects of alcohol and the effects that alcohol can have on a person on the other side. So she spoke about the effects of alcohol as you're drinking and as you're getting that high from alcohol, and then as you're coming down. And she said in her experience, people can have bouts of depression, a low mood, that it can also affect their memory. And she said that people can have feelings of regret and shame, even in cases of sexual assault victims. The prosecuting barrister, Toby Hedworth, then, when he was cross-examining this witness, he asked her if, in her experience or otherwise, do sexual assault victims resist while they're being assaulted, or do they simply allow it to happen? And she said that the evidence overwhelmingly is that they do not resist, that they allow it to happen.
Okay, was that the full total of yesterday's testimony that was heard?
It wasn't, Ger. No, we also heard from, so that was a defence witness that was called a little out of sequence yesterday, but I suppose the reason that Dr. Hall was called yesterday was as a rebuttal to the evidence that was heard the day before. So just it was natural to call her as part of the medical and forensic module. And then we had the evidence of a forensic scientist who examined the clothes. Among other things, she examined the clothes that the complainant was wearing on the night in question, and these have already been shown to the jury: a black sequin top, some white trousers, and a purple underwear. And these were shown to the jury at a previous occasion. They weren't shown yesterday, but she went through the analysis. She took some various swabs off the clothing, and she described the details of her findings yesterday. She said that after analysing these items of clothing, she found Stuart Olding's semen to be on the top, the trousers, and the woman's underwear. Now, the allegation against Stuart Olding, he's facing a count of rape as well, and he denies it. The specific allegation is that he's accused of forcing this woman to perform oral sex on him. He denies it. When he was being interviewed by police, he accepted that there was some sexual activity, that she had performed oral sex on him, but he claimed that it was consensual. This forensic scientist also gave evidence of examining a grey and white duvet cover that was taken from Paddy Jackson's room and sent to the forensic science lab for examination. And she said there was some blood staining on it, that she examined that blood staining and that she found that the blood matched the DNA of the complainant.
Okay, so what is expected to come up today?
Today, we heard yesterday that the police interviews are now going to be dealt with. This is probably the last module of the prosecution's case. We will hear the interviews that each of the 4 accused gave after their arrest, and the jurors were told before they left a little bit early yesterday afternoon. They were told that the transcripts will be made available and that's what will be used as evidence, but that they will also hear some of the tapes that were recorded in relation to some of the defendants. So that will take some time, probably most of today and maybe even a little bit of the court's time tomorrow. Okay,
so this is effectively more than likely the only time that we'll actually hear the voice of the various defendants in the case, because it's very unlikely that any of them will testify.
It's rare that it happens. In my experience covering rape trials in Dublin, it's rare that an accused person would get into the box and give evidence. The reason for that, I suppose, is they're under no obligation to do so. I mean, Paddy Jackson, Stuart Olding, Blaine McElroy and Rory Harrison are all entitled to the presumption of innocence at this point, and it's up to the prosecutor, Toby Hedworth, to prove his case on behalf of the Crown beyond a reasonable doubt. So they're under no obligation to take the stand. It'll be up to them when the prosecution closes its case and whether or not they want to give evidence and I suppose give Mr. Hedworth the opportunity to cross-examine them about their versions of events. But at this point, we've been given no indication as to whether any of the 4 accused will give evidence. But we will hear, like you've mentioned, from some of them. We were told yesterday they won't play the tapes in full because it would obviously take so much time. The court spent some time yesterday, I suppose, boiling down a lot of that evidence so that it can be as concise as possible. But we will hear some of the recorded interviews at various stages over the course of the next few days.
All right. Good stuff, Frank. Thanks very much. That's Frank Greaney, our court correspondent. And of course, you'll continue to hear Frank's coverage right across the network of stations here. So stay tuned, and you should follow him on Twitter as well if you're interested in the details of that case. Now, let's move on, because it's time for us to turn our attention to rugby this weekend. Obviously, Ireland against Wales. It's an absolutely massive game. Liam Tolan was on Wednesday Night Rugby last night. Here he is telling us why he believes that Wales will actually be Ireland's toughest opponent that they're going to face over the rest of the tournament.
Certainly, looking at the 3 games, I think Scotland is going to be the less difficult of the 3. I think England, because England are playing France in Paris the second last weekend. I think when we play them in Twickenham, as hard as it'll be much easier. I think the game of the season is against Wales this weekend. I think it's going to be extraordinarily difficult because Wales have evolved as well. And one of the things that kind of is alarm bells to me is Wales have traditionally played a little bit like a Munster game and certainly a little like an Ireland game. When they get into the opposition 22, they just bludgeon and bludgeon and bludgeon. But I think Lee Halfpenny's first try in 5 years was a real eye-opener to me, because Wales got right. This is against Scotland, sorry. Yeah. Wales just had a couple of things at play. Their forwards and backs, I think, are definitely, as a group, are easiest of all the teams to mix amongst each other and pass and pop and offload and that kind of stuff. One sidebar is actually they score almost nothing when it goes beyond 8 or 10 passes. They can get into this just cycle of passes and passes and get nothing out of it. But what worried me against Scotland was they got right onto the Scottish line on the left hand side of the as Wales were playing. They did one out pass and they immediately shifted it wide, which is totally at odds with what Ireland are doing, and it's totally at odds with, say, what Munster are doing, and definitely from what Wales are doing. So that kind of new style of rugby, and I think the Scarlets must be influencing A, how the forwards and backs are interacting, and B, how they're actually sourcing space and getting the ball into space way quicker than we certainly are.
Alan Quinlan, good morning to you.
Morning, Ger.
We got a bit of reverb in the studio because the speakers are on. It's like a dodgy Indies band from the 90s.
I think...
I was like, what's indie?
Well, yeah, I think will I go and turn it off?
Go on,
I think we're all good.
Yeah.
No, we're all good.
Yeah, we're all good, yeah.
They've
Freddie, how are you?
Good now, yeah, and yourself, sure.
The loss of Ian Henderson and Tyg Furlong, all of a sudden that's quite a bit of experience and heft and world-class ability taken out of the pack.
Yeah, it is, and I think I'm quite nervous about this game. I think everybody's asking, will Ireland win? And there's a lot of talk about Grand Slams and going to Twickenham. It's very, very nerve-wracking, to be honest. I think Gatland will be rubbing his hands together thinking, and he always looks for some little bit of an edge, Warren, so I think he'll be saying to his players this week, well, everyone expects Ireland to win, they expect to win, they don't rate us. We've been
written off.
Yeah, and let's go and spoil the party. And when you have Furlong and Henderson, it looks like they're not going to be involved. Now, you'd never know with the setup this week. There could be a little dummy being thrown, but Joe Schmidt's policy is obviously if you don't train during the week, which is a good policy in some circumstances. But when you have two world-class guys like that, you certainly don't want to take a chance that if you started them and if the injuries kind of reoccurred or flared up again, that they'd come off. It disrupts the whole team.
Yeah, because this is the halfway point of the tournament, and you want to win the tournament. Like if we lose the Grand Slam but win the tournament, it's still a successful season.
Yeah, I think, look, this is a game that is always a tricky one. I think the rivalry between both sides and the results have been nip and tuck. Wales have been in Dublin a good few times and won. We've been to Cardiff, I think, and won a good few times. Historically, home results, home advantage doesn't really have a huge significance or a huge bearing on the game. So if we lost this, it'd be deflating because I think if you go back to France, we kind of spluttered through that one, even though it was a great away win.
Yeah.
Italy, they were very poor. So this is a real test, and it's a step up in intensity and aggression levels and ferocity in this game. So I think Wales probably got more out of the first two games themselves, and they'll have learned a lot in Twickenham, so they'll fancy their chances. But part of me then thinks, this is the real deal. Now this is where our Six Nations really kicks off, and there's a pressure and expectation on the players to perform, and they have the ability, even without Furlong and Ian Henderson. If they weren't playing, I think we're still good enough to win and get a result.
What difference does it make not having Henderson in that second row?
Well, he's been settled there now for a while, and his level of performance has been very, very consistent, and he's really influential. He affects a lot of plays that go on in the game. His work rate is outstanding. He's a real presence. He's not a vocal guy, but his actions are just non-stop, and I think he affects so much that goes on, holding guys up in a maul, making tackles, making carries, hard yards when the off slow ball and stuff like that. So but someone like Devin Toner coming in, I think we're lucky to have him. He'd been outstanding for Ireland.
I think you're right talking about Toner coming in, because it definitely felt like Ryan was rested and he was always going to play. I think this was the first time we were really going to see Ryan and Henderson together, and that's why that's the most disappointing thing about this. It's like, here's your second row for the next 5, maybe 10 years if everything goes well for them, and we're just not seeing that in the biggest game of the tournament so far.
Yeah, and I think when you play against someone like Alan Wynne-Jones, I played against him many times. He's an outstanding line-out operator. He's a big presence. He's their leader, and they got us in the line-out a few times last year in Cardiff when we were. It was a very disjointed performance, and even at that, we could have won it. They got a very late try from a mistake, and you think of Robbie Henshaw's clear out at the ruck where we scored. We could have won that game. And Alan Wynne-Jones, they stole a couple of lineouts last year. So I think Toner coming in, that gives me a bit of comfort regarding running the lineout. And maybe Henderson and Ryan would have been, a little bit inexperienced. So he brings a little bit of strength in that lineout situation. Devin Toner would have learned a lot from O'Connell over the years and has ran the Leinster lineout really well. So yeah, I wouldn't be concerned about, look, Henderson and Ryan will be the future. There's no doubt about that. But I think Devin Toner coming in, he's a bit of he'll hopefully have a little bit of a chip in his shoulder to say, I'm not going away anywhere and I still want to play. So it's an intriguing battle throughout both sides. 9 Scarlets players starting. The last time they were in Dublin, they dismantled Munster and they'll fancy their chances again. And the week before, obviously, Leinster. Yeah. And that Pro 12 last year. So they'll certainly fancy their chances of playing with tempo and pace and trying to stretch Ireland all over the place.
Just a quick one on the second row there again. James Ryan obviously played at 5 against France. Does he shift over to 4 and let Toner come in at 5 now? And is there a big difference there for him?
Well, Toner, it doesn't matter really which number they wear. I think Toner will probably go to 5. He'll jump in the middle of the line out, Toner. I think James Ryan will go to the front. And that's something Simon Easterby will have to have had worked at during the week, is running that line out. Obviously O'Mahony's an outstanding line out forward as well, and it's such a crucial area. One line out can change a game. You're attacking 5 yards out. We lost one last year where Alan Wynne-Jones moved a little bit late, stole a line out when we were close to their line, so it is crucial. So I think Toner, will go to 5. It doesn't matter hugely from a scrummaging point of view. Maybe you probably want the bigger man behind your tight head on the right hand side of the scrum, particularly if Andrew Porter is going to start, which is likely to happen now. The
bigger man, bulk or height?
Probably weight. Toner's probably heavier than he's heavier than James Ryan. It's not really height, it's just that scrummaging ability, and that's why Quinn Roux probably, Joe Schmidt has favoured him. There's talk about his strength in scrummaging and that little bit of bulk and physicality.
It did seem odd, it seemed like Delan suffered a bereavement and so therefore wasn't part of the matchday squad, even though he'd been named in it. Quinn Roux comes in and you think, okay, well that means the pecking order is Delan's ahead of him, but it's actually the person who got the opportunity is ahead. That seems to be the case. Probably.
It just depends what way they've trained and stuff this week and how Ultan Delan is after his mum's passing, which was incredibly sad and tough for him to deal with. So it just depends where he's at. Quinn Roux brings that extra bit of grunt and physicality, maybe. But Delan is a better player around the field, there's no doubt about it, and he has this explosiveness off the bench.
Yeah. Roux obviously was a surprise selection in that South African tour, and they win that game. And so I suspect Joe Schmidt goes, I can depend on you in big matches where, he played the full game when Stander got sent off and won, didn't he? And we won that game, I'm pretty sure. We were at the Euros in France, so my memory's a bit hazy.
He started the second one, I think.
It was the second one.
Yeah, in Johannesburg. But Joe Schmidt originally signed him for Leinster, so I think he sees that bit of physicality or a bit of grunt, and to be fair to him, he works hard. He's not going to let you down, but I think Delan is a better footballer around the field, and coming off the bench will add a bit of explosiveness. So it just depends on that one. But certainly, it is a concern having Henderson out, there's no doubt. You want your best players, and they have 3 guys back, and Halfpenny and Bigger and Liam Williams, 3 Lions players coming into their back line, which gives them experience and maybe a bit of attitude and takes away a little bit of fear from their whole performance and what they're going to try and do in Dublin.
Yeah, we've been talking about this since the fixture was put up, but initially the spread was 11 points and now it's down to 8, but it feels like there's a kick of a ball between these 2 teams and it could go either way.
Yeah,
that's... The injuries suddenly make you think, well, if Wales were favoured for this game, you would understand that why they were favoured. They've got their players coming back and we have players going out.
Yeah, I think that's the nature of the Six Nations, Jerry. You're always going to have a few injuries, and up to probably the start of the Six Nations, we were in great shape. Suddenly we lose Furlong, we lose Van der Fleer, Henshaw, Furlong, possibly Henderson. There's 4 top quality players out of the side. You've no Sean O'Brien, Heaslip is gone.
No Rhys Ruddock even for depth.
Rhys Ruddock, you're 7 or 8 big players, big characters as well, not just big players but big characters. And I think that's what the Six Nations about. It's a very physical tournament over 6 weeks, but it's mentally taxing as well. And for any team to win, that's why the Grand Slams are so hard to win, because you have to get your head right and your emotion right for five games.
That's why Dan Bigger starting isn't just Dan Bigger coming in and running the game. It's like Dan Bigger, who has seen everything that Ireland has to offer, who, if we were to do what Eddie Jones did last week and were to attack him, he'd be like, all right, happy days. As opposed to with Patchell, it's like, Jesus, this is Twickenham,
Dan Bigger is hard. He's a serious character. I think you go back to that game, the Lions game in Wellington over the summer, where he was obviously behind Sexton and Farrell, and you think fella would drop the head a little bit and say, well, I'm not going to be involved in the test, and I won't get on the bench, and they're ahead. But he went out for that Lions game in Wellington, and against the Hurricanes and was just outstanding. His performance was just unbelievable. I think he got 2 or 3 really heavy knocks in that game and went off for with a cut, came back on. The tackles he put in were phenomenal, and he's just overall performance. So I think he's a real character. He's hard.
He's such an upgrade on the.
Well, you see him when he puts up some of the kicks himself. He goes up and wins them in the air. So he's brave, and so I think, you know, maybe will it take away a little bit of the cohesion they had with Patchell in there and all the Scarlets players? Who knows? Will the Wales kick a little bit more?
Probably, you'd expect, wouldn't you?
With bigger, I think they will a little bit, but they'll certainly try to get the ball to Hadley Parks and Williams as well, and Steph Evans, and I think Liam Williams coming in on the bench. They have a lot of threats there and a lot of danger.
You look at the players from an Ireland perspective who've had to come in, whose opportunity have arrived basically because of this slew of injuries. And you look at Levy, you look at Porter, you look at Ryan, and ordinarily they might not have got a chance in this huge game. Maybe Ryan, there's an argument to be made, he would have been first choice anyway. And perhaps in hindsight, we're looking back in this game, no matter how the result goes, come the World Cup in 2019, and we're like, that was the moment when they were thrown into the cauldron and they had to react.
Yeah, it's a test for him. I think Andrew Porter, a tight head, I wouldn't have any major concerns about him. I think he's relatively inexperienced, but very, very powerful. Obviously, he's made the move over from loosehead. I think he's a really powerful guy. And Rob Evans, the Wales loosehead, is a tricky customer because he stands up fairly high and he kind of turns in, turns out. There's a lot of leg movement there. So I think Porter, what's important for Porter is to get a good hit in the scrum, get into a good lock position, and if he does that, I think our scrum will be fine. He's incredibly powerful. So I think there is a little bit of concern there, but I think we're lucky to have Porter, John Ryan in backup as well. So there's a little bit of depth there, something we didn't have years ago. And so, yeah, for the future, I think Six Nations isn't about future. It's genuinely, it's about winning games, clawing out results. Sometimes performance isn't the most important thing, it's getting the result. Of course, you want to try and get a good performance to build a bit of momentum going forward, but I don't think Ireland will be looking ahead, and that's probably the key here, guys. I think Joe Schmidt will probably have
How do they stop that, though? How, like,
well, they talk about it. They talk about it. It's the famous one that jumps into my head every time is the 2009 game against Leinster in Dublin. We'd beaten Leinster twice that year. We were probably on more of a better run, expected to win. Leinster then, on the other side, if I'm sitting in that dressing room thinking, well, you have a chip in the shoulder, no one rates us.
They were
Once they think they're going to win it, beat us.
Completely written off in the build-up to that game.
Yeah, and that's the nature of it. And honestly, people often ask me, did we underestimate them? Did we relax a bit? Did we think it was a done deal? We spoke about it all week, about the backlash, the energy they'd bring, backs to the wall scenario, fight or flight scenario, and you still go out and some things go wrong. And that's why rugby is a game that getting a good start is really important. It's not necessarily on the scoreboard, but physically kind of settling into a game, getting a couple of dominant hits, winning the first couple of lineouts, getting your scrum right, because there's a lot of psychology goes on. So for Andrew Porter, what are you thinking on Saturday? First scrum. If he gets a big scrum there, the crowd are, kind of cheering, pats on the back from his teammates, and that automatically gives him the belief and takes away a little bit of energy from Rob Evans. Whereas Rob Evans gets a nudge on him, you think, God, is this going to happen all day? We're going to get penalised at the scrum time. So
it's his fifth start.
Yeah,
as a tight head in professional rugby.
It is, and nothing kind of replicates that match day intensity. But he will have a lot of hours, Ger, put in as a tight head on the scrum machine, a live scrummaging with Leinster. So. Look, I genuinely think he'll do okay. He'll do fine, and he was outstanding against Italy. Now it will
be amazing. Like, it's an incredible achievement for him, and like even just the technicalities of that game. We had Ty Furlong in last week, and he was just explaining how it all works and how a lot of it is about feel as much as anything, because you don't know if a scrum has gone well or badly because you're still you're in the dirt waiting for the backs to finish off a move.
Well, if you go backwards, it's gone bad.
Yeah,
but
fair enough.
If it's set there and you're not moving.
But for him to learn that new skill and now to be at the Six Nations against the Welsh front row, like, to survive that would actually be brilliant. He's probably unlikely to be a dynamic force for us. We shouldn't expect that much, should we?
Well, you look at his performance against Italy, the carries he made, the clean-outs, the work rate, he's very fit.
He'll be able to do all that even if the scrum goes badly?
I think so. Obviously, psychologically, you're deflated. His primary job is to get his right shoulder up and the right-hand side of the scrum up, particularly off Ireland ball. You want your loose set up a little bit on the Welsh ball. But you look who he's up against Italy. Quaglio from Benetton, you know,
not a traditional
17 or 18 caps.
Yeah.
Lavotti came on, 22 caps. Zebra. So you're not getting tested like maybe the old Italians teams where you've Castro Giovanni or La Cicero coming on against him or Perugini, someone like that, where Italy were unbelievably strong in the scrum.
But Rob Evans will be licking his chops, won't he?
Yeah, he will, and like I said, he's disruptive. He moves a lot. He's very aggressive. If he gets any little bit of a sniff of weakness, he'll go after him. So I think that's why it's really important that this is where Best and Healy are vital as well as a trio, that they're tight, that they work together. And Rory Best is an outstanding scrummager, so he maybe will aid a little bit going to that loose head side on the Irish scrum to make sure that they don't split in any way, because once he gets a good hit and gets the feet strong, he'll be fine.
And does that have any influence on? So you mentioned Healy. You think it's probably going to be Healy. That's generally the consensus, I think, in the papers. There's still a bit of a debate about maybe Jack McGrath starts. Like, does that have any influence? That tightness of the trio?
Yeah, I think. Look, Cian Healy's a very dynamic scrummager. But the one thing is, if he moves his feet, he sometimes can be unsettled a bit. And Samson Lee is a very strong.
Is he just in a one-on-one situation, or do they have to behave as a trio?
They've got to behave as a trio, I think.
Is that more likely? Like, does this feed into the selection?
So what Rory Best has to do, and Woody will probably tell you this, we back in probably 98, 99, I'd say, Shannon played Garryowen in a game in Limerick. Again, we're expected to win, strong Shannon side. We're league champions for the previous 2 or 3 years. We go to Garryowen, they're disjointed, and John Hayes has Woody in his neck all day long. So what I'm trying to say is Rory Best has to help Healy,
right,
and then has to help Porter. So on the Wales scrum, he's got to help Healy and maybe change his angle a little bit and go across on Samson Lee. And on the Irish scrum, maybe go across a little bit and help Andrew Porter if he starts. But either way, they've got to work as a trio, and then back rows and all that, and that's what Greg Fecal have worked on this week. I heard Tolley saying, Robin McBride will be licking his lips. Sometimes that can backfire on you. So what if Porter starts to dominate Rob Evans? Then they're starting to ask questions. Yeah. So as an 8, as a pack, they've got to work really, really hard. But I genuinely think Porter is so strong and so powerful. It's just the technique of getting his position right, his feet right, and his bind and the angle he's scrummaging at.
Like, all that talk there is around the scrum. Are we definitely writing John Ryan out of the picture at the moment? Because like the general consensus seems to be that he's a better scrummager than Porter.
Well, he's more experienced, and his elevation the last kind of 2 or 3 years with Munster has been outstanding, and with Ireland. He gets caught for one scrum when you come on against France, which can happen. The best players in the world, where you set your feet wrong, you get a wrong hit as a pack, and you get caught. Yeah, it was the penalty right at the end of the game, and so yeah, John Ryan. We could be all talking rubbish here. John Ryan could start. So it depends, and I think Joe Schmidt will trust. He will trust Greg Feek in his opinion. And they'll probably have tried and tested a lot of combinations earlier in the week, to see about this probability, maybe in Athlone last week as well. So John Ryan, certainly you can't rule him out of the picture. He could start. There's no doubt about it, and he's a very, very good scrummager. I'm
just checking the forecast there. It's like calm winds, kind of moderate winds, but dry. Yeah. So like you would hope, no knock-ons. Let's not give them any scrums, and I mean, maybe they get an early penalty and they take a scrum just to test things.
But to be honest, sure, I wouldn't. I think I'd be conscious of the fact that if Porter starts, let's not pay too much emphasis. We're conscious of it, but back the guy, and
If you're Wales, though, you're hoping for loads of scrums early on, right? Just to see.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, they want to test him, no doubt about it. And Alan Wynne-Jones and Corey Hill will be screaming on their front row to try and attack. So, look, it's a really interesting one.
This fixture last year, I think, had the most ball in play of all of the Six Nations games. So if that happened again, you'd be happy enough that we've got a really mobile pack who are actually up for that.
Yeah, and we're fit as a team. I think we like to play. Okay, our kicking game is very important, and sometimes we slow the game down a little bit, particularly in our trying to get out of our own 22 or our own half. But we can play with tempo. We showed Leinster showed it with 45 phases against Exeter. They showed it for the drop goal against France, so they can go and build multi-phase, and that's exactly what you want to do. So I think if you're Ireland, you want to stop the offloading game and the pace that Wales like to play with. I think Wales will realise that they want to play with that tempo and pace, and they could get caught up in that a little bit by throwing the ball around willy-nilly. So I think Andy Farrell's defence is vital. You know, we let in 3 tries against Italy. At the end, we can't afford to be that sloppy against Wales. We need to be really aggressive, hunt on the inside and stop that offloading game, and then go toe-to-toe with them and take them on and try and, another area which we lost last year was the back row battle. We lost the breakdown. They completely upset our whole flow. Murray got injured, Sexton got injured. And that's exactly what they've spoken about this week. So they'll try and disrupt Ireland. So I think, we've got to stand up and be physical with Wales. Navidi and Shingler, they're different than Warburton and Tipperick.
Yeah.
But you remember last year, Stander's making carries, Sean O'Brien's making carries, they're getting smashed on the gain line and turned over, and the ball is really slow. Then there's 10, 12 guys on their feet just charging out at Sexton,
and we didn't have the
we're
creativity
behind
at
the
that
gain
point.
line. So
it's a good point about Sexton and Murray. We had Andy Dunn in studio last night, and he's kind of making the point that actually he thinks Wales are going to win if either of those two go off.
No, I would actually tip Wales to win if either Murray or Sexton maybe come off the field injured, because it's probably another day's argument, but our style of play and attack, as Liam has gone through there, is it can be multi-phase, and multi-phase without an orchestra or a conductor guy in there in the middle can really break down quickly.
Yes.
You turn over a ball with the wrong guys at 9 and 10 who haven't been making the right calls. I mean, there's just essentially there's huge pressure on both Conor and Johnny to remain fit and to remain completely in charge, to remain cold-minded and bloody-hearted and all the things they need to be, and it's problematic. I mean, I mentioned earlier that that's one of Warren's strengths, is that he dilutes responsibility across his team and across the senior players. We tend to not do that. We tend to be very much our 9 and 10 run the show, and as generals they are outstanding. They're world, in the top 2, 3 in their position in the world, but what do we do without them? If anything happens, our attack game goes from what is currently probably not the best attacking game in the world to really mediocre with a risk of turnovers. I think we can win the game with the 2 guys healthy on the field.
Really mediocre with a risk of turnovers. It's like a bad weather forecast.
yeah, that's the concern. Yeah, when the pressure is on, but that's the intrigue about this game. I think Ireland will be a lot better. Marmion played last year when Murray wasn't there for England. Losing the 2 of them in Cardiff was too much, And for any team, if you took Bowden Barrett and Smith out of the All Blacks, they'd struggle. So let's hope neither will be injured or get any bangs or knocks, and physically they can deal with a fair bit.
Who was it that was tackling Murray late last year? It wasn't the West, was it?
No, that was. That happened on the Lions, but it also happened Glasgow Munster last year, where they're targeting. That's happened a few times. Yeah, the chop tackle, and Scarlets tried it a little bit as well in that game in Dublin. So all that kind of pressure. I think expect the unexpected with this Welsh
You should be allowed to stamp on somebody if they do that. It's the one time in world sport where you're allowed. Okay, you just tried to break my knee. Stamp. That'd finish pretty quickly, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm joking.
How would we take it? Yeah.
Maybe like,
meet
yeah,
him
of
after
course.
the game. Yeah, well, of course I can't say it really, but too many cameras nowadays.
Especially in the studio.
One fellow we haven't chatted about in terms of like the new breed coming through is Chris Farrell. And I think when you watch Chris Farrell, the first thing you notice is his size, but there's a hell of a lot more to him than just a bludgeoning centre.
Yeah, and I think he's probably... it was interesting, I was talking to Mike Prendergast yesterday, who worked with him in Grenoble, Bernard Jackman, Mike did, and he was their link man. Prendy was telling me that, you know, so much of their attack went through him. Yeah, and would get the ball in his hands. He could hit the winger, he could hit full backs. That he really rates his passing game and his ability to offload and pass. I think as the season has gone on, he's improved. I think he was... Joe Schmidt likes him. So I think, you know, Ringrose, again, we may be, you know, out of the blue, will he throw Ringrose in there? It's unlikely, because I think Chris Farrell has been kind of in the system for the last couple of weeks, has probably got up to speed, and I think he'll be physical and strong to put that pressure on Scott Williams. But our attack was poor in France, and you're kind of lamenting a little bit the fact that you don't have that silky skill, that touch from Ringrose. But look, he's back involved. But I think Chris Farrell, again, I'd be very confident that he can do well.
Part of me feels like if this was the Joe Schmidt before the World Cup, that he would have strapped up Furlong and Henderson and said, get out there. But actually, the new Joe Schmidt goes, we need to see what we have. And we need to know if we can pitch somebody in the front row. And we need to know if Ryan and Toner will do in circumstances like this. And I need to put Chris Farrell in to see if I now have proper depth in competition. Like, it definitely seemed that Joe Schmidt has become less conservative when it comes to naming the team and picking the team, and is willing to take a bit more risk when it comes to that, as opposed to, I've got my 15 and you need to be dead before I'm not going to pick you.
Yeah, well, I think he always had the policy, unless there was exceptional circumstances around the type of the player, that if you didn't train during the week, because he's big into the preparation and trying to get the team running together, moving together. He's a hands-on coach. He's right in the middle of it himself. He's not someone standing on the sideline who's watching other coaches do the coaching. But yeah, I think he's definitely... I think there's more depth there, and that's the key. If you go back to that World Cup in 2015 against Argentina, when
and
5 of our top players... Yeah, and he's trying to... I think it's been a massive emphasis to create more depth in case that circumstance happens again. And technically you could say, well, we've 7 or 8 guys out, so we're in that same position.
Yeah.
Okay, you know, Sexton is there, Murray is there. There's still a lot of experience there, but you take out Heaslip, O'Brien, Henderson, Robbie Henshaw, Van der Fleer, Ruddock, Furlong.
Yeah. That's an injury
crisis.
There's
a lot of guys
like ordinarily we'd be complaining about our injury crisis.
Yeah.
We certainly wouldn't be making ourselves 8 or 9 point favourites against the Welsh.
No, I don't think we've made ourselves 8 or 9 point favourites, but look, I think they'll be conscious of it, and it is a tricky game. I'm confident they can win, because they won't leave no stone unturned. And I think, like, go back to that Leinster game in 2009, you can mention it all week, but I think it's definitely ingrained in their heads that they can't underestimate Wales in any way here, and it's not just going to happen. You've got to make it happen.
Like, they owe Wales from last year.
Big time. And there's a bit of... The players like each other. I know Warren Gatlin came out a few years ago and said the Welsh dislike the Irish. That's rubbish, I think. But there's an edge to this fixture, and I think there's a bit of more of an edge. We've more of an axe to grind with them this time because of what happened in the Millennium Stadium last year. Scarlets and Munster Leinster and Munster got walloped by Scarlets. So there's a little bit more of an edge from the Irish camp, and there'll be massive determination. But look, we can't take our eye off the ball in any way, and I think it is a bit of a distraction, all this talk of Grand Slams and Showdown and Twickenham and all that stuff. And it'll be the same when Scotland come here in 2 weeks. They'll be kind of licking their lips, and Gregor Townsend will be looking for an edge there.
We owe them as well, though. So that's
we owe them as well. But it's difficult to get, to get it all right for 5 games. But I think this is where it really kickstarts for us, and I'm confident we can win.
A couple of quick comments. Noel Kyle says, Wales always dominate our back row. What does Quinny think? You made that point that our back row didn't function last year, and it seemed in the build-up to that one that Gatland had identified CJ and said, we'll just tackle him.
And it wasn't as if it wasn't mentioned. It was, we knew it was coming, and sometimes that's the frustrating
thing. That's exactly what they did in the World Cup to us.
I think key to our performance on Saturday is our back row fronting up, being aggressive, putting massive pressure on them, turning it over. But we've got to be really efficient at the breakdown, and they're a good side. Sean Edwards has continuously he just loves that scenario where you make a tackle, get back on your feet, become an absolute nuisance. And one of Ireland's biggest strengths under Joe Schmidt and any of his teams is the efficiency at the breakdown. When that goes, we're a lethargic team at times, and we can be slow and pedestrian. So I think that's a massive area. So I think O'Mahony, Stander and Levy, literally, if I was coaching them, if I was involved with them, I'd be saying, look, these are 1-on-1 battles and 3-on-3 battle.
Yeah.
So you got to make sure that you impose yourselves.
Levy's like the third choice 7 at Leinster, who's now playing for Ireland, and has got his opportunity through injury. And that tends to be how players get their opportunity in the back row, because there's such a backlog. But what's the difference between his game and the other two? Like, what's the difference between him and Sean O'Brien and him and Van der Fleer? What does he do?
Well, I think he's really aggressive and explosive. I said this before the Italian game. I would like to see him work a little bit more without the ball. He's a very powerful carrier, and if he gets close to the ball, he's really aggressive at the breakdown. But it's that tracking on the inside. So we're talking about the Welsh back are putting pressure on Sexton and Murray. I'd love to see Levy in Bigger's face all day, off the back of lineouts, off scrums, covering that inside channel, protecting Sexton. And that's what you want a good 7 to do. So Van der Fleer, sometimes he doesn't make the same amount of carries, the type of carries that Levy would make. He's more of a hunter-gatherer around the field. He's tracking the ball, he's sniffing every breakdown, can I get my hands on it? He makes a lot of leg tackles. So Levy maybe needs to stay a little bit looser like that and just hunt a little bit on the inside. And he's very effective at the breakdown when he gets there as well. I think he's an outstanding player, Dan Levy. So we've so much depth. Jordy Murphy as well, he was really good for Leinster last week against the Scarlets. Tommy O'Donnell with Munster. So we've kind of 4 or 5 really top quality back rowers there, a lot of depth there. So as regards the pecking order, any one of 4 or 5 of them could start there. But I think O'Brien is a loss as well. You know, his presence as well there is a loss. There's no doubt about it.
Is it fair to say that the Wales back row is overachieving a tad? I'm kind of basing that on Navidi solely, because of, you look at him for the Blues and it's not unimpressive, but it's certainly not somebody that you look at and you're like, that guy's going to be a star in the Six Nations like he has been.
Yeah, I was surprised. You're always surprised when you see someone like Tipperick on the bench. I know Warburton is out. And immediately when Warburton's out for a year, you think Tipperick is going to be their starting 7. But Navidi has been really, really impressive this year. I have watched him for a number of years, and he's hot and cold. Doesn't stand out hugely when the Blues play, the Cardiff Blues play, whoever, Leinster, Munster, Ulster, whatever. He's always hunting the ball. He's a very traditional, really good 7. And he's very good at the breakdown. So I think he stepped up. He played in November and played really well. And I think maybe he's got a little bit more confidence and a bit more responsibility. And he's rewarded in Warren Gatland. So he's a very effective player. I wouldn't underestimate him. He's probably, on paper, I don't think he's as good as Tipperick, but he's a very, very good player. And he's obviously in the team for a reason, because his form is really good.
All right, couple of quick comments here before we wrap this up. Lads, would you ever cheer up? We're 3rd in the world, says Michael Curtin. And Neil Hadfield says, number 3 in the world doesn't mean much if you haven't got a full squad. Even before our injuries, I thought Wales would do a number on us, and now I think they'll maul us. So much for Ireland depth. Well, we're literally going to find that out. This is as big a game in the Six Nations as I can remember for a while, because, like, obviously we started last year so badly in Scotland, which meant there was no chance of a Grand Slam. And the previous year we drew with Wales early on in the tournament. Was that
first game
up? Yeah, so that was like, well, that's gone. But we haven't screwed up to this point. We're at home. There's enough needle. It's about as big a game as I can remember from the international side since that World Cup quarter-final.
Yeah, and I thought our continuity against Italy was outstanding, the way we started the game. First kick-off, we started moving the ball side to side. It was a brilliant performance. And you can say Italy were really poor, and they were, but we executed outstandingly well. A couple of soft tries. So, look, even with the injuries, I'm confident that, given the circumstances, well, we'll know more about certain guys, won't we, on Saturday?
A whole heap more. Yeah,
we'll know a whole heap more. How will they deal with the pressure? Can they stand up to Wales? But look, I think the first game for Wales against Scotland was a complete kind of surprise and shock and the way the whole game went. Scotland could have scored 2 tries early on. It's a different game. They start throwing the ball again around like a sevens team, and then suddenly Wales capitalise it, and it's gone away from them. So how good are Wales? We'll know more about both sides, but certainly our performance needs to go up a level or two here. It needs to go to the level of what we did to South Africa in November. The performance against England last year, the intensity.
How do we score tries though?
That's a good question, isn't it?
Like, I can see us kicking 5 or 6 penalties, and that's either enough or it's not.
And one of the stats before France or Italy was that we've struggled to score tries against England, Wales, and France in the Six Nations.
And again, no tries against France.
Six Nations is kind of cup rugby though as well. It's not about expansion and taking a chance. There's less pressure maybe in test matches in November, and you do tend to. So I think all that matters on Saturday is getting the result. We need to have a little bit more execute better, but I don't think the ambition will be on Saturday to kick the leather off the ball. I think we've got to play, and I think we will play a bit. So I think we can. I just think if you get the ball to Keith Earls, he's on fire. He looks a different player, full of confidence. And Stockdale as well. He's a great finisher. Yeah. So if we build enough of phases and get a bit of width in the ball, then after 8, 10, 12 phases, we can create opportunities.
But even if you flip that, I mean, like Wales, some might say, would be kind of dead certs to score a try against us, given the dry conditions that Ger mentioned, given that Scotland game that you mentioned. It suits that offloading game perfectly if it is going to turn out to be dry. Yeah,
well, if we're loose in any way and we're sloppy with our execution and turn the ball over, I think certainly we could have problems with them. So again, it goes back to that back row battle. If Gareth Davies is getting really quick ball, and he's so dangerous, their scrum half as well, so quick. If they get quick ball, they're very dangerous. So that's where we got to stop them, stop those offloads, defend well, and take the game to them. So 2 good sides. There's not a lot to separate them. I think the 10-point spread is it's a little bit much, It's a little bit much. I think
it's gone now.
It's gone to 8 now,
It's probably 3 or 4 points in Ireland's favour, I think.
Yeah, and even then, you'd still be concerned. I can see us scoring about 15, 18 points, but you can easily see them scoring 1 try, and it's whether or not they get a second one that decides the game.
Yeah, of course. I think we win the game, and I think it'll be 8 or 10 points, to be honest.
All right.
Yeah, they'll be looking for motivation now. They'll be watching this, and it'll be up online all day.
That spread's ridiculous, but we're definitely going to cover it.
I expect a good performance from Ireland, and I think there's too much at stake here to mess up, and we haven't beaten them in 3 years, 4 years. Is it? We lost last year, drew the year before. Lost the year before, actually, when we were going for that Grand Slam. So it's a while since we've beaten them.
Yeah, we owe them. We just kind of always forget that we owe them.
We do, yeah.
Michael Curtin's been back, but we do have a full squad. More depth now than ever we had. We're at home. We're on the back of 2 wins in the trot. And remind me again, the last time Wales beat the All Blacks, no Warburton, no Jonathan Davies, no Rhys Webb. We're not the only ones with injuries. And then that's back and forth on our Facebook page if you want to go for it. Sorry, YouTube. It's on youtube.com/offtheball. And then what always ends all arguments online, it's called reality. So we don't need to be defeatist. Snap out of it. It's called reality. And Dr. Katie Liston, hey, good morning to you, Katie, says, I am quietly quite nervous. We are all quietly quite nervous, I think. Look at that. What's that? It says there, not West Six Nations, Ireland versus Wales.
Have those, please.
I think you're already sorted for accreditation. So we are giving them away a little bit later on. Make sure you retweet, leave a comment, or share our feed and give us a score prediction as well. We'll collate them all and we'll announce the winner on tomorrow's show. Now, Andy Lee obviously made the big announcement this week that he was retiring as a professional fighter. He has already stepped behind the mic for us over the last couple of months, and over the next while we're going to send him out into the world to make some brilliant short documentaries for you. The first one comes at you live today, and it is Niall Kennedy's story, Boom. He's been down to Wexford to hear the incredible story of Niall Boom Boom Kennedy, the 64th ranked heavyweight in the world, who's also a full-time guard.
8 victories, 5 of them coming by way of knockout. Ladies and gentlemen, he is the 7-time Irish National Amateur Champion and the current Massachusetts Heavyweight State Champion. Hailing from Wexford, Ireland, please welcome Niall Boom Boom Kennedy.
reason I had to talk to you about the Santos fight. Huge fight.
Yeah, massive fight. Yeah.
You took a big chance.
Took a risk. Yeah. No one told me it was as big a risk, but I took it. Yeah.
Huge underdog going over there, and not only all that on your mind, you had your son was born.
Yeah.
MJ. Prematurely.
Yeah.
And he was in the hospital. Would you say like he was fighting for his life, battling?
He was at that stage. Yeah, he would have been. So he would have still been in the intensive care unit in the neonatal ward.
Yeah.
So he was in hospital for 55 days in total. On his arm.
His arm.
That's how big his arm was when he was born. And they usually leave him loose fitting, don't they?
Yeah.
And did you watch the fight?
No.
Live?
No.
Do you ever watch him fight?
No.
Yeah.
The night he was fighting, I had to express every 3 hours for MJ. So I woke up and I checked my phone and the fights were on.
Yeah.
And he was literally just about to come into the ring. So I had my iPhone on my pillow, I had the fight on that, and I put Coronation Street on my iPad and watched Coronation Street, and every few minutes I'd check over to see if he was still alive. But I hate watching it, really do.
I was walking, training twice a day, and trying to get to Hollis Street as well, and driving from here.
And the worry of that as well.
Yeah, the stress, but it probably worked on the plus that I hadn't time to worry about the fight at all. I actually, when we got to Foxwoods Casino, I couldn't believe it when I saw the billboard, like my name up. I actually was in shock. I was there, Jesus, this is strange. Like, no one told me it was this big. Like,
if the momentum is swinging in Santos's favor, and if the gas tank of Kennedy is starting to drain.
It was a hard fight.
It was a tough fight. Yeah, it was 10 rounds.
There were moments when you could have went either way in terms of.
In the fifth, I remember going back after first 4 rounds went better than they could have been thought, and I remember walking back after the 4th round thinking, Lord, I have 6 rounds left, like, you know. And then he had a very good 5th, and he had a very good 6th round, and I thought on the way back after the 6th round, this has gone away from me. Like, you've let yourself down in your amateur career, you're letting everything slip away again, and I had all these demons in my head. And I got back to the corner, and I had written MJ on my 2 forearms here, and I think Pascal copped it as well, and he just said to me, Niall, you've promised your son you're going to give this everything, don't have regrets leaving this ring. And that's the one thing from my amateur career, I had so many regrets, so I just, I beat down on a gum shield. I had my best round in the 7th round, I had a good 8th round. The 9th round was close, but he got a point deducted, and then I went back to old amateur style of running nearly in the last round, which was the wrong thing to do.
Looks like he has his wits about him just enough to make it to the final bell, but Santos wants to change that. Kennedy firing away. The seconds tick away. What a way to close our main event.
It's those, I know myself in fights, you have a couple of bad rounds and then those negative and they're happening while you're having the bad round. You're trying to deal with that in your mind, you're trying to deal with the fight in front of you, and you're thinking, this is getting away from me, I'm losing this fight. And all the things that people at home, your family, everything, they're in your thoughts, aren't they?
Yeah, everything's going through your head, and I just kept saying then, I remember in the car thinking to myself, you've made this promise, like, don't have regrets, let your son look at this video in 20 years time and be proud, like, you know.
By split decision, and the New England heavyweight champion, Niall "Boom Boom" Kennedy.
That fight was always going to come down to blood and guts. I had my beautiful son in hospital fighting the battle, so I'll fight any battle in this ring against any man.
And the minute the fight was over, all I wanted to do was get back and see the little man, and just, because I don't know, it's strange. I can't explain it. I can't explain anything what that child has done to me. He's made me, I'm already a soft man, but he's made me a soft man.
I know that.
But no, it was the Santos fight, the preparation going over. Pascal he's very good at man managing, and he'd realised that my head probably wasn't in the best place early in the camp, and he said to me, do you want to pull out? So I asked Niamh and Niamh said to me, no, go and make MJ proud, and this is not, because I'm 33, I'm 34 in May, it was a fight that it may not have came again. And thank God he's absolutely flying it. He's done brilliant. He's putting on weight. He's going to be bigger than me, I'd say, by the look.
Future heavyweight.
Yeah, I'd say so. No, the Santos fight was a catalyst, I suppose.
Yeah, it's a huge, like that is a huge, I suppose, barrier to overcome. That you understand you, like.
Please God, yeah.
Will, like, he's got the sponsors and everything.
Cool help there. I have one on as well, but I'm so cold today.
What's wrong?
Oh.
What's wrong?
What are you giving out for?
Say hello. Boo boo. MJ boo boo.
If you've ever been on Hollis Street, all the nurses are nearly Filipino, so they absolutely love boxing. Yeah. And
Manny Pacquiao.
Yeah. And they were all mad to see. So I came back and I wanted to bring the belts in to show the little man. And so I brought the two belts in, the Massachusetts title and the New England title, and I got a picture with him with the belts, and it was lovely because he was only just out of the incubator, wasn't he? He wasn't long out of the incubator.
You spoke about before you've had tough times with your mental health and stuff, and I suppose I read when you were 19 a friend of yours took his life and all.
Yeah, Colin, yeah. He would have joined here with me as well. Now, not young, he came later in life. He was the best soccer player in the town. He was brilliant. But yeah, I struggled, you can probably see, but I struggle talking about it still to this day. It's something that catches me up a little bit. But it's life. I think we all have these little things, but it just, I didn't deal with it at all. Probably didn't deal with it till I was 25 or 6 really. And I struggled with it badly. I drank far too much. I made bad choices.
I know. Yeah, obviously it affects your boxing and every aspect of your life, I suppose.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, and then I just one of those things. I think.
And what would you say has been the main reason, the main catalyst for you to having this? This like almost comeback not just in your career, but in your life, and like boxing has been a big is a big part of the comeback, isn't it,
No, well, the lads here, Heidler and Aidan and Darren, my best friend, Darren O'Toole, they'd have always been there. Even when I was going through my bad times, they'd have always been there. They've always been on the phone and they'd been helping out. But things started to change. I remember Darren saying to me one night, Basil, you might as well give it up. Like, he says, you're not putting it in, you're going to get hurt. Like, so I thought to myself, this is not right for me. Best friend, my coach, be telling me that. So I started changing. I trained harder. Started to see that I was getting better results. Got to a senior final. Started to see a little bit more results, but still not enough. I said to Niamh, my wife, who was a massive input into it, but we went away to Prague. I broke my hand as well. I just buried my grandfather. Broke my hand the Thursday, buried my grandfather the Saturday. We went to Prague the Monday, and I said to her, look, this is taking too much out of me. I'll either pack in boxing or I'm going to text Pascal and see if he'd be interested in taking me on. So sent Pascal the message, and he was interested, so that's how it sort of kicked off then. And
you recently sparred with Anthony Joshua.
Yeah.
You went over there to Sheffield. How did you find it?
Brilliant. A great parameter as well. It's very good to be able to see where you are.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say I lack confidence, but I believed I was at the bottom of the mountain and he's the top of the mountain. And I thought there was a massive distance, but the sparring showed me that the distance isn't as far as I thought, and that it's achievable, which I suppose for my own confidence is a good thing as well, and sparred him for, I'd done 12 rounds with him, his last 12 rounds before his last fight as well. So.
This is Anthony Joshua signed it for his baby girl in the back of it.
What does it say?
To the main man, MJ, grow strong, be smart, all the best, Anthony Joshua.
Nice one, man.
Lovely, yeah.
Lovely.
Is he too big for it now?
Yeah.
Does he wear it?
No, he doesn't wear this one. You have another one that he can wear.
There you go. Turns out Anthony Joshua is a heart of gold.
Yeah, Well, I think we already knew that, didn't we? He's a good guy, one of the good guys, and that's pretty cool.
That's Boom, the Niall Kennedy story with Andy Lee there. It's up on our Facebook page and, of course, youtube.com/off the ball. Get along there and subscribe. You won't miss any of the good stuff that we do. Some of the longer form bits and pieces that we put out there that doesn't get aired either here or on the radio at night on News Talk. And just a reminder, of course, we're giving away a pair of tickets to Ireland against Wales. All you got to do is share the stream or leave a comment under our Facebook or Periscopes of this and give us an idea of what you think the score is going to be using the hashtag OTBAM, and we'll give that away tomorrow. LJ Keegan says emotional stuff, and well done Team Kennedy, says Sabrina Murphy, with a couple of XXs at the end of that one as well. So full final comments for you. Warburton, Falatau, Jonathan Davis, Rhys Webb, arguably Wales' 4 best players. I mean, they are very, very, very good players, but now, maybe we were talking ourselves into this.
Yeah.
Maybe like it's screw you, Wales, although you always beat us recently.
That just basically balances out the Ireland injuries, though, doesn't it? I mean, Henshaw, Furlong, Henderson. Like, that's kind of a like-for-like set of losses that you would expect midway through a gruelling competition like the Six Nations, no?
Is Warburton more than that? Does he have the intangibles that make you think he's more of a...
Sean O'Brien?
Johnny Sexton? He's at that level?
A tad, maybe. I would say he's at Sean O'Brien's level. So what? He's listed off 4 of their best players, but we've got 4 of our best players missing as well. And regardless of how good our replacements are...
But our 3 best players are Furlong,
Johnny Sexton and Conor Murray.
Yeah.
And
so
we've
that,
got 2 of the 3.
We have depth everywhere else.
Well, I would say Dan Biggar, is he in their top 4 players? Does he sneak in there and he's fit?
Don't know.
Certainly there's less of a question about Ireland.
I think it's definitely a big upgrade in terms of experience and nous, and just being able to run that game for them for at least the 60 minutes or however long he's fit enough to do, to get them into the game so that they take advantage of whatever early chances they get.
Yeah, you're probably right. I was going to say, well, his importance is heightened by the fact that he is clearly their best out half at the moment. But then the same could be said for Ireland, like twice that, because of the lack of experience that Joey Carberry's got. So yeah, I accept that point, but I don't think it's something that's weighing it heavily in our favour, because Ireland have a hell of a lot of problems themselves. I suppose the answer with, like we saw it against Argentina, that Farrell and Aki can do well together. Are those November tests like very trustworthy in terms of form, in terms of the opposition, in terms of how interested they are, or how much they've got left in the tank? Maybe with Argentina there's an argument that there's more to be read into that than there is against some of the traditional tri-nations, for example, because a lot of them play in Europe.
I mean, I don't know. The trouble with Argentina in November is that they're always crap. Like, and you never fully see...
That's my point, like...
their hand, and you never fully understand exactly what they're at. So, like, they could have been brilliant. It's the same as reading too much into the Italian performance. Like, we did really well against Italy.
I'd read a little bit more into that, though, than Argentina.
Or the Italy?
I'd read more into Italy, basically because it occurred a lot more recently than the Argentina game. And you can read into Porter to a certain extent. Obviously, as Alan outlined there 20 minutes ago, that Italian front row isn't exactly the most earth-shattering thing, and it was a great time for somebody to come in and get introduced to the world of the Six Nations. But I just feel that this is a real litmus test of Chris Farrell and Bundy Aki's relationship at centre. Like, let's not forget this is Aki's first Six Nations as well. Like, it's a huge moment for them, and obviously there are those issues up front in terms of our first choices being out, but those replacements are excellent. We've seen them being excellent in an Ireland jersey.
Yeah, I don't know. You shot me back into this is a really close game again.
It is going to be a really close game, and like, I don't think it's too much of a statement of hyperbole to say that it is the most important Ireland rugby game since that defeat to Argentina in 2015.
Well, I just would like to point out that we did warn you all that the 11 points last week was ridiculous, and that was the time to get on. Good man on for getting on.
Yeah. I was going to curse. I try not to curse in this breakfast programme, but yeah, at least I got a bit of dosh off the England-Wales spread. Wales tends to not allow the other team to cover. So I might actually still get on. 8 points, having that.
Yeah, all right. Coming up today, the Keith Andrews Show live from 12:30 on all of our social channels and on offtheball.com, Facebook, Twitter and YouTube. Stephen Kelly and Adrian Barry are going to be in studio for that one. You can watch back last week's feature interview with Kevin Doyle. Sensational stuff, where they really got into exactly what went wrong at Euro 2012 and just the little bits, the little details that Trapattoni hadn't quite covered for the team and their families. and being on stag in Sopot basically for, we had a great time in Sopot. It was sensational. It was one of the best work holidays that we've ever been on.
I'm sure you did.
Not necessarily the best place for a football team to be out and having the crack if they needed to. Tonight on Off the Ball, John Giles, Wigan Athletic manager Paul Cook after they beat Man City in the FA Cup, and Rory O'Connor and Stephen Ferris on Ireland-Wales as well. And Friday morning on Off the Ball AM, Kenny Cunningham in studio. What more could you want of a Friday morning? We'll also have Rhys Ruddock and Rhys Priestland preview the game. There must be some Rhys's pieces. Yeah.
That joke's been made on in the office about 100 times at this point.
Okay.
Sure, so
why didn't you bring it to air? Leave your best material outside. Rookie mistake.
Well, it's, yeah.
Definitely your best material, don't worry.
Yeah, no, it is. It is definitely my best material, but it is terrible material all the same.
Matty Williams is going to join us in studio as well, and we will announce the winner of the tickets. Somebody's going to go and watch Ireland against Wales if I don't put them in my pocket and forget to take them out. That's all courtesy of Vodafone, of course. Now, that is pretty much all we've got time for today. Make sure you like, subscribe, share, tell your buddies. Somebody was wondering, we tweeted the details of what was on the show today, and somebody was like, oh, this isn't on the radio. I was like, well done. Welcome to 2018. Loads of stuff isn't on the radio anymore. It's right here on all our social channels. We'll see you tomorrow. Good luck.